There's a version of you that never quite turns off, a voice that replays conversations you had 3 years ago, that rehearses arguments that will never happen, that takes one small moment and builds an entire trial around it, with you as both the accused and the jury. You've probably called it a flaw, a bad habit, maybe even a sign that something is wrong with you. But what if it isn't? What if your mind is doing exactly what it was designed to do, just in a world it wasn't designed for? You know the feeling. It starts small. Someone sends a short reply. Okay, just that. And suddenly, your mind is running an investigation. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset? Should I send another message? No, that would look desperate. But silence might look like I don't care. Maybe I should... And on it goes. For minutes, sometimes hours. Or maybe it's not a text. Maybe it's a decision you have to make. A simple one, on paper, but your brain won't land anywhere. It circles, it backracks, it simulates every possible outcome until you're exhausted by a choice you haven't even made yet. This is overthinking, and here's what psychology tells us about why it happens. Overthinking is not random. It follows a specific psychological pattern called rumination, defined in cognitive science as repetitive, self-focused thought that cycles without resolution. It was first studied seriously by psychologist Susan Nolan Hoeksema in the late 1980s. She found that people who ruminate don't just think more, they think differently. Their minds are oriented towards problems, threats, and uncertainty, not because they're weak, but because that orientation was once a survival advantage. Here's something worth sitting with. Your overthinking mind is not broken, it is ancient. The part of your brain most responsible for rumination is called the default mode network, a cluster of regions that becomes most active when you are doing nothing at all. When you're not focused on a task, your brain doesn't rest. It wanders, it replays, it projects, it asks, what could go wrong? What does this mean? What should I have done differently? For early humans, this was essential. The mind that rehearsed danger survived longer than the mind that forgot. The one who replayed the near encounter with the predator and changed their behavior afterward lived. The one who didn't often didn't. You are not anxious because you are weak. You are anxious because you carry a very old kind of intelligence inside a very modern world. The threats are no longer predators or weather or starvation. They are emails, social dynamics, self-image, the future. But your brain doesn't fully know the difference. It is still running a survival program written for a world that no longer exists. To understand why you can't stop, you need to understand what overthinking does to the brain at a chemical level. When you encounter uncertainty, a threat, a problem, a conflict, your amygdala activates. It signals danger. Your body begins producing cortisol. And here's where it gets interesting. Cortisol enhances memory encoding for emotionally significant events. This means the more stressed you are about something, the more vivid and sticky your thoughts about it become. Think of it like an ember. The more you focus on it, the brighter it burns, and your mind, trying to solve the problem, keeps returning to the ember, keeps analyzing it, which keeps the cortisol flowing, which keeps the thought bright, which keeps pulling your attention back. It's a loop, not a character flaw, a neurological pattern. There's also something called the Zeigarnik effect, named after psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik, which found that the mind holds unfinished tasks in active memory far longer than completed ones. When you overthink, you are often circling a problem that feels unresolved. Your brain will not file it away until it senses closure, and so it keeps the file open, running in the background, like 30 tabs you meant to close but never did. So what do you actually do with this? Not suppress it. Suppression doesn't work. Research by Daniel Wegner, the White Bear experiments, showed that trying to not think about something makes you think about it more. Here are 5 principles that work with your brain's design, not against it. 1. Name the loop, not the thought. When you notice yourself cycling, don't try to stop the thoughts. Simply say internally, I'm in a loop right now. This activates the prefrontal cortex, your rational, observing mind, which slightly quiets the amygdala's alarm. You shift from inside the thought to watching it. That distance is everything. 2. Give the loop a closing ritual. Your brain wants closure. Give it one. Write the thought down, not to analyze it further, but to signal to your nervous system this has been received. Journaling reduces rumination not because it solves the problem, but because it creates the neurological sensation of being heard, even if the only one listening is you. 3. Scheduled worry. This sounds strange, but it works. Research from Penn State found that designating a specific time, even just 15 minutes a day, to consciously ruminate reduces intrusive thinking throughout the rest of the day. You are not suppressing the mind, you are giving it an appointment. Come back at 8 p.m. We'll think about this then. And surprisingly, it listens. 4. Ground the abstract in the concrete. Overthinking lives in abstraction. What if? What does this mean? What will happen? The antidote is specificity. When you notice the spiral, ask, what is the one next thing I can actually do? Not the whole solution, just the next move. Action, even small action, shifts brain chemistry away from threat mode and toward agency. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between solving a big problem and taking one small step towards it. It just registers movement. 5. Separate the signal from the noise. Not every anxious thought is a warning. Some are. The worry about a real deadline is signal. The replay of a 4-year-old conversation is noise. Ask yourself, is this thought pointing me towards something I can change, or is it just the loop running again? Signal deserves attention. Noise deserves compassion and release. Here is the simplest way to hold all of this. Your mind is a watchman. It was built to patrol, to look for threats, to never fully rest. For most of human history, that was the job. But you live in a different time now, and sometimes the watchman needs to be told, the perimeter is clear. You can stand down for a moment. You are not trying to silence the watchman. You are learning to work with him, to notice when he's raising alarms about things that are not emergencies, to thank him for his vigilance and gently redirect his attention. The goal is not a quiet mind. The goal is a mind you are no longer afraid of. You have been thinking for a very long time about what you should have said, about what they think of you, about everything that could go wrong. And underneath all of that, there is a mind that cares deeply, that wants to get things right, that doesn't want to hurt anyone, that is trying always to prepare. That is not a flaw. It is at its core a form of love. The work is not to destroy it. The work is to understand it well enough that it no longer controls you. You are not your thoughts. You are the one watching them, and that has always been enough.